Hello, book fans. This book is a very good book. It's called The Constant Rabbit by Jasper Fforde. And despite being one of the best books I've read this year, it's left me with a feeling of despair, helplessness, sadness, anger. It's complicated because this book is it's about rabbits, but the kind of underlying story isn't really rabbits. It's actually about human nature, I suppose, like any book, but specifically from the point of view of Britain's exit of Europe and the ecocide of the human race upon the planet and the destruction of species. The current mass extinction event being generated by many things such as climate change, global warming is one of them, but also the destruction of habitat, deforestation and all that. But it kind of doesn't do that. It doesn't go into detail about it because it's actually a story about rabbits. It comes from and people are going to think it's a load of nonsense. Perhaps some people are going to think that. But the protagonist is called Peter Knox, which kind of is a bit of annoying because there's another character called Fox. Knox and Fox, that's a bit bad. But Peter Knox is he's our hero in a way, but he also is not a hero because he works for this government agency that monitors rabbits, and he detects rabbits using his special sight because all rabbits look the same to people except a minority of humans who can spot different rabbits. So he's a spotter. But the premise of the book is a kind of Brexit type scenario where you have some Nigel Farage type person called Imaginative the Nigel Maverick, and he wants to send them all into one super colony of rabbits because he's in fear of the rabbits outbreeding people. So you can see where this comes from, that white supremacist viewpoint that people with a different colour skin are going to outbreed the people with the paler colour skin or whatever. You know, there is that narrative in certain circles of minorities, well, hopefully minorities. There's the Rolling Thunder to give the negative kind of impact of the book. But it's not all negative because the positivity comes from the point of view of the rabbits. So the reason why it's rabbits, well, the rabbits went through an anthropomorphizing event where they've become human-like. They're like a blend of rabbits and humans. But I think the rabbits represent the most positive aspects of the human nature in the book. I think that's what they seem to represent. You know, they're a positive force of nature. And they're also vegan as well, but like Nigel Maverick says, they're aggressively vegan, which I think is quite funny because the aggressive vegan agenda, a lot of people talk about that as if vegans are negative and want to destroy the world or something, which is kind of funny from people who just eat leaves, which is what the rabbits do. They mainly eat leaves and carrots. So it's taken a number of aspects there. And also, they even talk explicitly about the climate destruction and the essential ecocide of the planet, and that's what the rabbits kind of mention to the humans in the book, just to point out where we are going wrong. And the story is the battle between the rabbits just trying to be free and trying to live their lives as peacefully as possible and cohabiting with humans. They're not even growing in numbers. They're settled at about 1 million or something. There's not a lot of them in comparison to the rest. So it's not like they are outgrowing people because they're very concerned themselves about the effect of their growth, their population growth upon the humans and the agenda of the far right humans called like two legs or something they're called. But it deals with a lot of issues of extremism in current society and the way that the radical far right has basically moved government policy to the point where we're talking about people on boats crossing the channel, which this book doesn't mention, but the rabbits are essentially those people. And the way that we are driven to hate people who have done nothing wrong. I think, and that's the kind of story. And I mean, the ending, the way it goes through the start, the middle, and the end is very good. It's very well written, and I think the characters are strong. There's another character as well. So the opposite of Peter, I keep wanting to say Peter Rabbit, is Constance, the rabbit, who is an old friend from his college back in the days when rabbits were allowed to go to university before they got banned. So there's a bit of a romance between the two in a way, and that's an interesting narrative about, well, it's cross-species, isn't it? But I think it's talking about people with different coloured skin having relationships, really, rather than about cross-species. But obviously cross-species as well. I mean, the thing is, it opens up the whole question about what is an animal. You know, the way we treat them is ridiculous. But I'm coming from, I think it doesn't talk about that, it doesn't bang on about it. I'm only reading into that because of my own kind of vegan narrative, and being able to see that happen in the world and being shocked really that animals that can speak, I mean I'm talking about the book now, not in real life. Obviously animals can't speak. I mean, they speak to each other, but we don't know what they say. What do animals talk about? I don't know. But in taking an animal that speaks and then still saying that it's just an animal and therefore lesser than a human and by far and should just be exterminated kind of thing, having that narrative really drives home that message that human exceptionalism is destructive to the world, and it continues to be so. And the book really does have a good ending, and I can't think of a better ending to it. But it's not exactly a happy ending, it's not a sad ending, but it leaves a lot of questions, but not questions with regards to the story. It gives you questions about wider society, as in what the hell are we doing? What the fuck are we doing with ourselves, the planet, and all these decisions that we make? That's why I'm in this hammock. I'm somehow trying to relax and calm down, having read the story, and it's very provocative. It makes you think again about those things that you don't want to think about, and that's what makes it a good story. I've read it while I've had COVID mostly, so I think my reading powers have taken a bit of a Neggy Nigel kind of look, so that's kind of reflected in my experience of the story, I think. So I think I might be down marking it. My initial thoughts was 4 out of 5, but then I thought, but why? It's a great story. The actual narrative, there's nothing more important than looking at what damage we're doing to the planet right now. And even though this story doesn't directly deal with that, it talks about it indirectly. Oh, the cat's at the window trying to barrack me now. So for that reason, it's got to be a 4 out of 5. It might even be a 5 out of 5 experience, this book. It really is. But I'm gonna peg it at 4.5 out of 5, just because while the writing is excellent, I don't think it was, as she's meowing. Look. Yeah. She wants to go out, but it's not out time and there's thunderstorms, so we don't like her being out in the thunder. But yeah, I'd say it's an important read if you're into any of those issues, but also if you want to read a book that's imaginative and takes a creative look about human nature. I think Jasper's done a really good job. He's a really fine writer. And get it out to the library. I did that. I didn't buy it. Got it from the library. And it's a really easy reader. It's only about less than 300 pages, I think. Yeah, less than 300. 300. Just over 300 pages. Great book. You've got to read it. And I'll be reading some more Jasper Fforde pretty soon. So if you found this useful, if you've got any comments, any questions about the book after reading it, then drop them down below. But put a spoiler hashtag in there as well so people can know that there's going to be spoilers in there. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I suppose overall try and stay positive about the whole climate change thing and everything else that's occurring, unless you don't believe in it, in which case, carry on in your own happy ignorance, and I'm quite jealous of you. But you're not going to stop it from happening. None of us are, if we don't do anything. Thank you very much for watching, and stay positive somehow.